Hello, friends of YouTube. This is Pauline Jo back again for another social work related video. As you can tell by the title, I will be talking about my personal experience with studying for and passing the Association of Social Work Board's Master Exam, or ASWB Master's Exam for short. To clarify, this is the licensure test most states will require you to take after receiving your Master's in Social Work degree. Some states call the license title Licensed Graduate Social Worker, or in Maryland, where I'm at, it's called the Licensed Master Social Worker. Whatever you want to call it, this is the exam that you would take again after you finish your Master's, and this is not the clinical exam. Before we dive into this exciting topic, if you are interested in anything related to social work, beauty, chronic pain, disability, faith, travel, or outdoors, please subscribe for more videos. On another note, if you are on the go while listening to this video, whether it be walking, driving to work, gardening, whatever, you can now download all videos on YouTube Premium for easier listening. So, go ahead, grab your water, your iced coffee, your calming tea, your cozy socks, and let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is an examination of your energy. What this means is the process of mindfully gauging your energy level for this process. If you've come to this video, you're either thinking about starting a Master's of Social Work program, you are in the groove and super busy in the middle of your Master's of Social Work program, or you're winding down towards the end of your program with so much to do, it might feel like a mountain. Regardless of where you are, I want you to start off by thanking yourself for even considering taking this exam. This exam will not only help you advance in your career, but it will also help your clients, and it will help you advance in your life for the betterment of yourself and your loved ones. Next, I want you to think about how that felt when you thanked yourself. Did you feel positive, like feeling excited, confident, and ready to review the material? Or did you feel negative, feeling like you are dreading this exam, feeling like you are already having worked so hard, so why do you need to take a test? You know the material, and it's overall just pointless. If you felt positive, that's great. I suggest to always be realistic with yourself and remain humble. If you felt negative, I want to let you know that that's okay. Social work students aren't in the habit of taking tests unlike other disciplines. Instead, social work students are tested through their unpaid, intensive internships, their endless group work, and their individual papers and projects that feels like they can go on for days. If you're feeling negative, you might either want to examine if your negativity is coming from fear, exhaustion, pride, intimidation, or a combo of all. Fear is normal. A lot of people have testing anxiety. Exhaustion is understandable. The MSW program is intense. If you're feeling pride, I get it. Pride means that you have confidence in yourself. But too much pride may cause you to overlook things that you might need to sharpen up on. And if you feel intimidation, I also understand. To think all of these years and skills leads up to a 4-hour test is intense. So, go ahead and start off and examine your energy and see, where are you at today? Where are you in this process? How does your energy feel? So, the second point I want to make is to consider your time frame. You will use your regular time management skills here, but you need to be a little bit more specific. Envision your target date for taking the exam, and then split up your time from completing the online application to getting your fingerprints to studying. The date or dates you might consider are based on factors such as time it'll take for you to have the money. I really recommend to save up about $500 for the application fees, study materials, and traveling fees to take the exam, depending on where your testing center is. You want to aim for what I call bite-sized goals, which are almost smaller goals for the bigger goal. For example, what I personally envisioned did not go as planned thanks to the pandemic that I know everyone has suffered through or is suffering through, depending on if you're listening to this during the COVID pandemic or if it's already surpassed. The date that I wanted was not available once I was finally able to get my initial application steps approved, so I had to push my date about 30 days than I wanted. It's important you establish a couple of aim dates. I recommend you have 3 choices, especially if you are, again, listening in the pandemic, because if you're like me who needs specificity in things to be able to function, you won't know how much studying you're going to need per day, per week, per month, if you have no idea when you're going to take the test. You don't want to waste your time studying with no clear goal date. It just won't motivate you. It won't discipline you, and you might not be able to retain the information as much. The pandemic for me was crazy in terms of school, so by the time I got my date, I only had about a month to study until I took the test. So for me, I studied about 60 hours a week for 4 weeks straight. I studied even a little bit a day, but I also took purposeful, meaningful breaks to refill my soul. I do ask that you please, throughout this entire video, please refrain from negative comments. I know what happened to me might have sounded insane, but it worked and it wasn't impossible. So the third topic or step I'd like to discuss is accommodations for people with disabilities. I will go ahead and leave here on the screen where you can skip if you do not have any type of disabilities that deem you eligible for accommodations on the day of your test, or if you just don't want to apply for accommodations. Again, as I mentioned earlier, please refrain from any negative comments about how you don't have a disability or that you believe that it isn't fair that people who have disabilities get these accommodations. Please look up your state laws on disabilities if you need to learn more. If you're still listening, shout out to my fellow friends with disabilities. It's not easy to ask for accommodations. So I want to say that I'm proud of you for advocating for yourself, because truth be told, no one will do it for you. And also, if you don't have a disability, you're still awesome, and it's still great if you are able to advocate for yourself, which I am sure you already do. In terms of wondering who should you go to, I would check with 3 places. I would first go to your school's disability services, then your primary care physician, or anyone else who can properly vouch for how your disability affects your ability to complete a test. I personally went to my primary care physician who has been following my fibromyalgia case. I won't go into too much information about how my disability affects me on the daily, but the accommodations that I was given were time and a half, which equated to about 6 hours, and the ability to get 1 snack break. Now, I didn't end up using the 6 hours because with fibromyalgia, part of the disability is like you just experience a lot of pain, and so my back was hurting just by, the uncomfortable chair and like just having to sit still for so long. And so I actually had to get up a couple of times just to stretch. And so that ended up taking a good amount of time. The fourth topic, or step that I'd like to provide more information on is the materials I used. I personally started off with a basic Amazon search thinking there would be just one book, but boy, was I wrong. There was actually about 4 books that I could choose from. The study guide I ended up choosing was the Social Work ASWB Master's Exam Guide and Practice Tests, 2nd edition by Don Apgar. It gave me access to the topics I needed to review, 2 paper exams, and 6 months free to use their app to do more study questions, games, and the electronic practice exam. I really liked the application because you could use it on computers, tablets, and phones. I actually downloaded the app onto my phone, and at night, if I had the energy, I'd play some games or use some electronic flashcards to help me remember terms. In addition, I went ahead, I just ran to Staples. I bought a pack of 500 index cards for flashcards, highlighters, and post-its. In terms of YouTube videos, because if you know me or if you've watched any of my videos, you know I love YouTube. I watched almost half of Phillip Lutrell's videos, which I will link down his channel down below. He's actually a social worker and an in-person and virtual tutor. He was my saving grace. He helped me get into the mindset of breaking down questions rather than just memorizing terminology, because to ace the test, it's not just about knowing all the social work terminology, but it's kind of like taking, any other standardized test. There's like a certain way to figure out and break down the questions. So the 5th topic that I would like to share is about study techniques. I'd like to start off this particular topic by saying I was never a straight A student in school. Even if I tried my hardest, I could not achieve all A's. But somehow I learned, and here I am today. I never learned a specific way of studying in the past. I kind of just been fortunate to, do what I could. There really, in my opinion, is no straightforward technique to studying. But since I am a kinesthetic learner, which is someone who is hands-on, who remembers things by writing them down, I first took 2 to 3 days reading and dissecting the entire book while highlighting it. Then, based off of what I highlighted and how I understood things in my own words, I made flashcards so that I could focus on understanding how it applies to social work rather than just memorizing every definition word for word. I started off slow and eventually got myself sitting down for 4 hours straight with no breaks. I would have conversations with my family and my friends, even at dinner or through text, and I would tell them about what I learned as a way to keep myself accountable. I'm pretty sure they thought that I was insane. I also made sure I had a calming environment. Now, I had to study at home because of the pandemic, but if there was no virus, I would have loved to go to a cafe. Instead, I had to improvise. I went on YouTube and found an instrumental playlist of songs either from Animal Crossing or just some random composer, whatever sounded good. I also burned candles and had soft lighting to keep me as calm as I could. Studying for me was never fun, so I would always try to make it fun in a way to keep me motivated and sane. Another random technique I used was, instead of making myself miserable for 4 weeks straight, I would schedule in some time for fun, even if it was very small. So again, sorry that I sound like a broken record, but I also just want to add this layer of information for those who are trying to study during the pandemic. So yes, it was challenging being in the pandemic. It was not fun studying being in pandemic. Again, it's still happening as I'm recording this, but I socially distant, went to lunch with friends for 2 hours. Another time I took a break by doing some online Christmas shopping. In another instance, I even went outside and played some tennis with some friends. So I just want to make note of taking purposeful breaks because, one, my attention span could not handle studying for too long without moving or socializing in some safe capacity, but also it is important that you look at your studying as a way to benefit your life rather than looking at it as Thank you so much if you are still listening. I really appreciate your willingness to maybe learn something or just to have faith in me that I might have something that you can take away from this video. So again, thank you so much if you're still listening. The sixth topic that I would like to bring up is tips for the week of. I was understandably very nervous, and I would understand if you become nervous too. The first thing I did was I alerted my family and friends of the test date. On a personal note, I'm a very caring person, and I feel good when I can check in with family and friends, see how they're doing, and be that emotional support. But I had to tell them if there was an emotional emergency, which has been really common in the pandemic, to please hold off and either talk to someone else or ask if it could wait until after the test. I know that sounds silly to have that boundary. I know it kind of sounds a little selfish too, but as an empath, I am emotionally, mentally, and physically affected, which isn't always a bad thing, but I can still be affected when I hear people's problems, and I just knew that I wouldn't have that emotional capacity, and that I was slowly wanting to feel sharp for the day of, and so it kind of felt like I was clearing out my mind. So you might want to have that boundary with your family and friends or whoever, so that you can slowly become mentally sharp and clear. The second thing I did was I assured I was hydrated and didn't eat foods or whatever could upset my stomach. The last thing you want on the day of your test is ongoing stomach issues or dehydration. I know for myself personally, if I become dehydrated, it takes a couple of days for me to become at a better hydration level, or if I get stomach issues, it takes a couple of days for that to go away. Eating healthy and drinking lots of water is something that you should do in your life anyways, but I'm just saying that I had to make an extra effort to do this in preparation for my test. Another thing I did was every day I would write down my name and my future credentials as a way to feel like I was manifesting the thing that I wanted. I wanted to pass the test to get the LMSW title. Now, granted, I am a Christ follower, and you don't really believe in manifestation if you're a Christian, but I felt I wanted to use this and hoped that God would understand. The other thing that I did was I try to tell myself something to kind of take that pressure off of myself. And I told myself, and you can really say whatever you want that will take the pressure away, is whatever happens, Mom and Dad will be so proud of you. For me, my parents have meant so much to me, as I would imagine most parents mean so much to their kids. But my parents are my biggest supporters, and I'm always thinking about them in everything that I do. So I just felt like that was like a nice thing to tell myself to, again, alleviate a little bit of that pressure. The fifth thing that I did was I actually took extra care of my hair and skin more than the ordinary. I know that's probably also cheesy, but I just thought it would kind of uplift my mood a little bit, because at that point in the process of studying, I was like really just like burnt out. And if you're a Catholic, or if you believe in the saints as a Christian, I prayed to Saint Rita of the Impossible every night. But if you're not religious, that's also cool. That's also fine. A final thing that I did that week is I actually slept extra than I normally do, because I knew I'd be so nervous that by the time I ended up at the night before the test, I wouldn't get 8 hours of sleep. So I wanted to, make sure I didn't have multiple nights of not good sleep, if that makes sense. The seventh tip or seventh step is tips for the day of the test. On the day of the test, I woke up feeling prepared. I had all of my stuff ready the night before, like my ID that I needed to present at the door, my glasses, my chapstick, my water bottle, my snack, and my comfy outfit to take the test, and so forth. I actually made sure I had a big breakfast because I took my test at around 10:30 a.m. and I knew that, lunch wouldn't be till like 4:30 or 5 or whatever. And so I knew I'd miss lunch. So I wanted to assure that I had a good, healthy breakfast, enough to last me for the 6 hours that I was able to take the test. I also did the same thing. I drank with water. I drank a lot of water and made sure I tried to empty out my bladder. Sorry, TMI, but really I wanted to assure that I used the restroom before my test. And I actually managed to get there 2 hours earlier than my test start date because I didn't want to come rushing in, because I felt like that would set the tone, or that would set my mood for the test, which would then set me up for failure. And as I said earlier, I kind of just repeated that mantra, or I repeated that one thing that would, keep me calm, which is whatever happens, mom and dad will be so proud of you. So that's all, y'all. Thank you so much if you listened to the entire thing. I hope I was informative as possible. Please forgive me if it sounded a little scripted. I just really wanted to make sure I got all the information across, so I did write some things down. But please know I'd really like to help if I can. You're welcome to reach out to me via the comment section below if you have any additional questions. And I'm spreading the positive energy. You're going to do amazing on this test, regardless of whatever happens. Remember why you chose social work, and remember you are meant to be a social worker, and be proud of yourself for taking the next step in your career. Please be well, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.